Hi everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 93 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And today I'm talking with Sherry Jones. She's a 1970 Kane High grad who grew up in James City, found a love of riding horses, which is something she still does today, and has some great stories to share about those things as well as her farming life. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around and we'll walk on over and say hi. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Kate.
How are you today?
I'm really great today. Thanks.
Hey, thanks so much for agreeing to talk with us and to share your stories.
Okay.
So you were born in the Kane Hospital
Yes, I was.
and you grew up in James City.
Yes.
So can you tell us some stories about what it was like being a kid growing up in James City?
It was a really nice little town full of immigrants that all spoke different languages. So we were always hearing Italian or Russian, and a lot of them were factory workers, the glass plant factory workers, and well, they worked in the woods too, so they came in on visas to work in James City. So there was a lot of people of different ethnicities there. So, and small town, small,
nice.
Yeah, small little place to go to school.
Yeah, and so where is your family from originally?
My mother was born in James City too, but her father was from Czechoslovakia and her mother was from the Ukraine. And my dad's family, Vandernick's, Gus and Mamie Vandernick from Kane, were from Belgium originally.
And did any of them work at the glass factory?
My grandfather was a glass factory worker. Yep, he was.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what his job was?
No, I don't know what he did in the glass plant, but my other grandfather, the Vandernick side of the family, were glass blowers.
Oh, cool.
So they came into the country as glass blowers, making, jugs and stuff like that. So
How neat.
yeah, it is neat. You can still find some around in antique stores. You can see the straw mark on the bottom of it, and you know it's a hand-blown piece.
Oh, wow. That's
well, and
cool.
then there's new artisans too that are making
We're doing the
hand-blown
same
glass.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hey, what was it like for you as a kid? What are some stories that you have or memories you want to share about being a kid?
Well,
growing
James
up there?
City, like I said, TV didn't come on until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which even then, you were outside playing. A lot of sled riding, a lot of ice skating. We had horses when I grew up in James City, ponies. My dad and my mother were really kind enough after we begged and pleaded for years, being that we loved, us girls all kind of loved horses. They bought us a horse named Ladybug and, helped us to keep her fit, kept her in the backyard in a little barn that my dad had built. Originally probably was a chicken coop, but he turned it into a horse barn. And we'd take her to the pasture and bring her home at night. And we picked up another horse later on, so we had 2 horses. And there was a lot of kids in James City that had horses, so we weren't alone in our pursuit of running around in the woods and racing up and down the roads. It was fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun. How old were you when you got your first horse?
We were 6 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said other kids had horses too, so you would play together. And then in the wintertime, did you do anything special with your horses?
Well, yeah, my dad got us a sleigh and got a harness, and we got the horse broke to the harness, which back then it was a different way of breaking horses, which is interesting. Nowadays they use so many different techniques. But we did it, and Ladybug would take us around town, and I still have pictures of friends and I in that buggy, or in the
sleigh.
Yeah, and he actually bought a Surrey with a fringe on top.
Oh.
And we used to buy milk out at Lamont from the Swansons. And I remember taking that Surrey out there and getting raw milk from the Swansons. And, I know nowadays it's really hard to buy raw milk. People don't, they're not
but that's
allowed
a
to
really
sell
cool
it.
memory. That's
Yeah,
such a neat memory.
I couldn't drink raw milk now. I could get it maybe this close, and it's like I can't drink this. So,
well, that's still so fun to think about. So you went to school at the James City Elementary School as well.
yes.
What was that like? How big was it?
It was a small, but first and second grade were in the same room, and second and third grade, we had a principal, Veda Liptak. She was sweet. She was really a great person. She managed the school really well by herself. And, we'd go, they'd stoke up the boiler in the morning with the coal, and the black smoke would be rolling, and we'd go to school, and then we'd go home for lunch too, which was kind of neat.
That is neat. Yeah. And then once you hit 7th grade, that's when you integrated.
I had to go to Kane High School, and I had to readjust to all the rules that they had at the high school, up one stairs, down the other stairs, and you had to, you had lunch, of course. You had to have lunch money and take care of your lunch money. You get it once a week, and if you spend it, no lunch for you.
No lunch for you.
And I was always afraid I was going to not remember my combination to my locker.
Oh
And,
yeah. I mean, that is a big change from like shared classes between 2 grades to the high school.
Yes.
With all the neighborhood schools coming together.
Yeah,
So,
that was nice though.
yeah. You got to meet new people.
You did get to meet new people, Kane people, and you know, I don't know that there was any kind of a rift between Kane kids and James City kids. I mean, we could always find fault with, you know, the way we were treated, but
Well, it's always. I mean, it's only a couple miles from
yeah,
out
it
of
is.
Kane.
Yeah,
So
it is.
yeah.
So,
So you graduated in 1970.
yes,
What did you do next?
I went to work at the Kane Hospital as a nurse's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice, really great women in there that were nurses that were so helpful in training me and teaching me compassion to older people. I mean, sometimes as a 17-year-old kid coming out of high school, you know, you don't understand what it's like to be 80 years old and need the help. So there were some really great women in there that taught me a lot about a lot of things and stuff now even I know because of that training.
Yeah, that's awesome to have
Yeah.
those mentors in your life.
Yeah, it is.
And then did you work somewhere else too?
I went to the Stackpole Carbon after that, resistor plant, and packing resistors. You had to be really ambidextrous, and the machines would run really fast, and that was, you know, a whole different set of rules. You know, lunch was this time, and break time was that time, and if they didn't like you, they'd, you know, make you take your break 10 minutes after lunch.
Oh,
But
geez.
I know, but it was a great job and it was good money, you know. And I worked there. I was pregnant with my first child, and I think they laid me off. I think that's when I was laid off.
And then you decided to stay home.
I decided to stay home on the farm here at South Settlement.
So you got married. So in the time that you were working at the hospital or Stackpole, you met your husband.
I met my husband,
and got
Bill.
married.
He owned the Nansen Hotel, dancing at the Nansen, and it was the place to go for rock and roll music on Saturday nights. And I would go out there even though I was only 17 and I wasn't supposed to be there. And I'd try to sneak in, and he'd always catch me, and you know, I'd get booted back out the door. But eventually, I got old enough to go out, and he and I started dating, and I would, you know, we had a really great time. He was
One of
like
the
that.
things that you told me that I thought was so cool was that you would show up at the Nansen on different modes of transportation.
I did.
So how did you get there?
I showed up on a snowmobile, which was very popular back then. You know, that was back in the 72 and 73, and there were snowmobiles, and they're a great place to snowmobile around here too. Everybody had snowmobiles. And then of course, I had a motorcycle in the summertime, and I'd take that out there, and you know, I'd visit him on that, and then I'd ride my horse out there too. So
I love that.
Nansen isn't that far from James City.
Yeah, that's
the
really
woods.
cool.
It's not that far.
No, and it was a pretty ride, I'm sure.
It was beautiful.
So you and Bill bought a home on a farm.
Yeah, we did. It was his father had bought the original farm, and he said there's a place for some hay for his horses, and we came out and said, oh man, this is paradise. And we were lucky enough to buy what was left of the farm, and decided to, after a few years here, we'd like to do something with the land. Got Penn State, we called Penn State, and they sent us a bunch of information on hour studies, and you know, how many hours you would have to put a week for raising hogs, and how many hours for the cattle. And one of the lowest hours per week were apples. So that was really enticing, and we knew apples grew here because
Right.
you know, we were collecting them to make cider with our daughters. We had a cider press, so we thought, we're going to try this. We're going to grow apples here on the King County.
So you were staying at home with raising your kids, and you were farming.
Yeah, we were farming together, you know, trying to do them both, and we were pretty lucky. You know, we were able to pull it off.
How many trees did you plant the first year?
We planted 100 trees the first year. Cortland's, McIntosh, Empires, and Cortland's, McIntosh, and Empires. That's what they were. That's all I can remember. Yep, that's how they go. And we had them like that in rows, thinking that was the best pollination. But over the years, we've learned a lot about pollination and pruning, and you know, having a return bloom, and you know, where to get our bees to rent in the springtime.
Oh, neat. Yeah, there's a lot, I'm sure, that we don't even know
we
goes
didn't.
into this.
We were going to collect, have our own bees. We had them for a while, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And the first 100 trees, are those some of them over here?
Yeah, that's the original planting is there.
How beautiful.
They're 37 years old. They're
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
How many trees do you have today?
3,000, give or take, because some die and we add some. We added 100 antique varieties for cider last year,
neat.
so we're really excited about having that new kind of introduction into our cider.
Yeah, and in addition to having the farm and being a farmer here, you still do one of your first loves, which is riding horses.
I love riding horses. This is such a beautiful place, and they're so easy to ride. You saddle them up right out your door. There's a place across the road called Castlebrook, which is amazingly beautiful. It's like paradise, and I can ride right around the back of my farm. We have tons of trails that we maintain back there, so it's just a really great place. And I don't have to ride for hours. A half an hour is really great.
Yeah, and you can get out every day.
Yes.
What are your horses' names?
I have Phoenix, and I have Valentino, and I have Huey and Hoosier.
I love that.
And I share them with my grandson.
I was just going to ask, who do you ride with?
Yeah, my grandson Jack, and I have, he's always loved horses, so it was nice to have somebody that, in my family. We had horses for my daughters, but it was not something they really cared for, so he really loves horses, has always, and he's my dream cowboy.
That's a special hobby to share together.
Yeah, it's wonderful,
for sure.
Really. He's 23, I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would you say? I'm going to ask this question to end with. What would you say it is that you love about Kane?
It's a small community. A lot of people. It's got a really great little hospital. Really nice places to shop. You can go in town. And people are very helpful. If your car breaks down, somebody's going to help you fix it up. It's just a great place. There's so many new businesses coming into Kane too that is such a great boost. And you go uptown, and now there are all these people sitting out eating on the sidewalk, and the marquee to the old theater still going on and off, and they've got those new street lights that look so good.
Pretty.
It's just really, they're doing such a great job, and it's just a really nice place to live.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And then one other thing I just want to touch on, because you've kind of touched on this, but we have 4 seasons here.
Yes, and every one of them has something that I enjoy. The springtime is all that, we're going to renew the farm, and it's kind of dicey during the bloom. We get a little bit because of frost and stuff like that. We do have that wind machine right up there. If it does frost, we do have some protection, and we have smudge pots too we use. And in the summertime, you can go to the Kinzu Dam, take your kayak down there. It's a half an hour ride, and it costs you nothing to put that kayak in there and have a really great day. And the fishing's good down there, I hear. I don't know, I don't fish. And then the fall, of course, I have my apples to sell, and I love running my store. The people are wonderful. I have the best customers. They're every year. I can't believe how nice they are. And Facebook is like, oh my God, I can't believe Facebook is I can't believe what Facebook has done for us. And then winter, I can cross country ski. I still ride my horses, and I still like the winter around here. I like 4 seasons.
I do too.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap
No,
up?
but thanks for coming out today, and I hope I did good.
You did awesome. Thank you for sharing your story. It was really, really good to hear about.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I loved hearing stories about growing up in James City, horseback riding, and about the farm, the beginnings of the farm, and what it's grown into today. But I definitely think that it's a special thing to have a hobby that you start when you're 6 that you continue as an adult. And so what are some of the hobbies that you had that started as a kid that you've continued and do to this day? Share those stories in the comments below. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 94.